Once upon a time, deep in the heart of an enchanted forest, where the sunlight filtered through the ancient trees, in dappled patterns and tiny light particles danced in the air, lay a quiet little cottage. It was a charming home, built with love and care, and inside, Snow White rested peacefully. She lay as if in a deep sleep, her cheeks still rosy, her lips as red as a cherry, and her skin as white as the freshly fallen snow. Watching over her day and night were her 7 dear friends, the dwarfs. They had found her, cared for her, and loved her as their own. And now they kept a silent, hopeful vigil, guarding the treasure of their home. Day after day, the dwarfs stood by her side, their hearts heavy with a sorrow that words could not express. They had built a beautiful glass coffin for her, so that all could see her fairness, yet no harm could come to her. They gathered around it, their shoulders slumped, and often a tear would trace a path through the coal dust on their cheeks. They couldn't believe that the fairest maiden they had ever known, the one whose laughter once filled their small cottage with so much joy, was gone from them. They would recall her sweet songs, the delicious meals she cooked, and the gentle way she cared for every living creature. Their grief was a quiet, constant ache, a shadow that had fallen over their once happy home in the woods. Seasons turned, and the forest transformed around them. Spring arrived with a burst of vibrant wildflowers and the cheerful song of returning birds. Summer draped the woods in a thick blanket of lush green, humming with the buzz of life. Autumn painted the leaves in brilliant shades of gold, orange and red, scattering them like jewels upon the forest floor. Then winter came, covering everything in a soft, silent blanket of white. Through it all, the glass coffin remained untouched. Snow White, lying within her crystal chamber, remained as beautiful as the day she fell asleep, her serene face untouched by the passage of time or the natural course of decay. It was as if she were a perfect statue, a timeless work of art preserved by a powerful magic. One fateful day, a young prince, the heir to a neighboring kingdom, found himself lost while hunting in the sprawling forest. He rode his magnificent white horse through the unfamiliar woods, the silence broken only by the gentle clip-clop of hooves on the soft earth. As he navigated a winding path, his eyes fell upon a strange and beautiful sight in a sunlit clearing. A glass coffin, surrounded by 7 small sorrowful figures. Drawn by an unexplainable curiosity, he dismounted and approached. When he caught sight of the sleeping maiden inside, her beauty struck his heart like a bolt of lightning. He had never seen anyone so lovely, so ethereal. It was as if all the beauty of the world had been gathered and placed within this one sleeping form. He was utterly captivated, frozen in a moment of pure awe. The prince knelt beside the glass coffin, his heart filled with a mix of wonder and a deep, aching sadness. He looked at the dwarfs, their faces etched with grief, and spoke in a soft, pleading voice. "Please," he said, his words full of sincerity and respect. "I do not know who she is, but my heart tells me she is someone of great importance. Allow me to take her with me to my castle. I swear upon my crown and my honor, I will treat her as I would my most precious and greatest treasure. She will be honored and watched over with the utmost care." He saw the hesitation in their eyes, the protective love they held for her, but his plea was so genuine, so filled with a pure and selfless admiration, that it began to melt their sorrowful resolve. The dwarfs looked at one another, communicating through shared glances and nods. They saw the truth in the prince's eyes and the purity of his heart. After a long moment of silent deliberation, they finally agreed. They believed this noble prince would truly honor their beloved Snow White. With great care, they lifted the heavy glass coffin and placed it gently onto a golden carriage the prince had summoned. As they began their slow procession out of the woods, the forest path seemed to glow with a soft, ethereal light, as if nature itself was blessing the journey. It was a solemn and hopeful moment. With every step they took, fate, which had been still for so long, stirred once more, preparing to weave the final threads of this incredible story. The journey to the prince's castle was long, and the path was uneven in places. As the carriage moved along, one of the wheels hit a large tree root, hidden beneath the leaves, causing the entire carriage to jolt suddenly. The impact was just enough to shift the glass coffin. Inside, the small piece of poisoned apple, which had been lodged in Snow White's throat for so long, was dislodged by the sharp movement. It fell from her lips. A moment passed in silence, and then she took a breath, a soft, gentle gasp of air. Slowly, Snow White awoke. Her long dark eyelashes fluttered, and her eyes, the color of rich chocolate, opened to meet the astonished and hopeful gaze of the prince who was riding beside her. The world, which had been held in a breathless pause, started to move again. A soft, wondering sound escaped her lips as she looked around at the unfamiliar faces and the grand carriage. "Where am I?" she whispered, her voice still weak from her long slumber. The prince, his heart soaring with a joy he had never imagined possible, moved closer and took her hand gently. His smile was as bright as the sun that now filled the carriage with a warm, golden light. "You are safe," he replied, his voice full of tenderness and relief. "You are in a world where love is stronger than any spell, and where you will never have to fear the darkness again." In that single shared glance, a bond was formed, a love story beginning in the most miraculous way imaginable, proving that true love could indeed conquer all. Meanwhile, far away in her dark and lonely castle, the evil queen approached her magic mirror, her heart filled with smug satisfaction. "Mirror, mirror on the wall," she demanded, her voice sharp and cruel. "Who in this land is the fairest of all?" She expected the familiar, fawning reply, but this time the mirror's surface shimmered ominously, and the voice that answered was laced with a truth she could not bear. "You, my queen, are fair, it is true, but the young queen is 1,000 times fairer than you." As the mirror declared that Snow White was alive and soon to be a bride, the queen let out a terrible shriek of fury. Her wicked heart burned with a rage so intense that the very air around her seemed to crackle with dark energy. A sudden clap of thunder echoed through the castle, and with a deafening crash, the magic mirror shattered into 1,000 pieces, reflecting her own twisted, envious face in every shard. Envy had brought her no power, no joy, only ruin. Soon after, the grand castle bells rang out across the entire kingdom, their joyous chimes announcing a royal wedding. The palace courtyard was filled with fragrant flowers of every color, and guests from lands near and far gathered to celebrate. Snow White, looking more radiant than ever in a beautiful royal gown, stood beside her handsome prince. Their joy was a tangible thing, a light that filled the kingdom and touched the hearts of everyone present, including her 7 loyal dwarf friends, who were given places of honor at the celebration. Their happiness served as a beautiful and powerful reminder that goodness, kindness, and love will always shine brighter than the darkest shadows of envy and hate. The kingdom celebrated for days, rejoicing in their new, beloved queen. And so ends the tale of Snow White. A story not just of a poisoned apple or a long sleep, but a timeless story of friendship, of the darkness of envy, and of a love so pure and true that it awakened life itself. It teaches us that even in the deepest of slumbers, hope is never truly lost, and that goodness will ultimately triumph. Thank you for joining us on this magical journey. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Fairy Tale Fables for more magical bedtime stories. We'll see you next time.